Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Anne Adhiambo of Mothers Don't Tire Modoti channel. Now, for those who have subscribed to my YouTube channel, those who have liked, those who have commented, I'm so grateful. I am because you are. And for those who are new to this channel, kindly subscribe, comment, download, like, and share. Remember, Modoti is the only channel where we tell it as it is. We share our challenges, we share our struggles, we laugh, we cry, we teach each other, and above all, we mother ourselves. This is where we mother mothers. I have my last born who went to an ECD, and in their ECD, there is one song that really used to excite me that he liked singing when he was in preschool. It was going like, Jesus, toto me, toto me, toto me, Jesus, toto me, yes, yes, yes. It means Jesus, baby me. So the same way motherhood is a journey, and sometimes as mothers we get overwhelmed by the new experiences that we get in day-to-day life, and therefore as a mother sometimes you just feel like you need to be mothered also. You're a mother of your children, but you also need to be mothered. It is only in Modoti that we mother one another. Now today I want to talk about something that is very common in the children that we have, and it is about their fears and anxiety in children. I want to talk about some of the common fears and anxiety in children. What are some of the fears that your child experience? It's very common as a child when they are growing up, they experience their fears, and it is important to know some of the causes and what are these types of fears that the children experience as they grow up. Before you know the steps to take to help a child, if for example a child needs help, when such anxiety become extreme, then it is necessary to seek for help. So before you take a step to seek for help, it is important to know what kind of anxiety, what kind of fear does my child go through. As a child, I had some of my fears, and some of them I would say were quite extreme, and I saw my mother struggling because I remember, I think at the age of it might have been around 7 years or so, because I was in primary school. I was in standard 1 or 2, around there. I used to fear sunset. For some reason, sunset, that red streak when the sun sets used to send a lot of panic in me, because of the Sunday school lessons that we learned, that there will be the end time, that one day the earth will come to an end, the world will come to an end, and the heavens, the fire will fall from the heavens. So every time there was that evening streak of the sunset, that red streak of the sunset, I would feel like, my goodness, the world is coming to an end. I'm telling you, I would practically run to our bedroom and push everybody and cry and cover myself with a blanket and panic and even sweat. I think twice my mother caned me, and when it persisted, she got so frustrated. I can't tell exactly how she dealt with it, but I remember she kept on giving me assurance. Slowly by slowly, I overcame it. But it is something that I can vividly remember that really frustrated my mother. And I can vividly remember that it is something that caused me a lot of panic. So likewise, children undergo different types of fears. Children have their fears. You can have a child that fears something that is so extreme. The fear becomes so extreme until you feel like, now, how am I going to handle this? There is a time a friend was sharing with us in a fellowship. We were just having an evening fellowship, and among the prayer items the friend was sharing with us was the child. She had a daughter who just feared caterpillars, and this came as a result of one of the friends in school telling her that there's a caterpillar on your dress, there's a caterpillar on your dress. I don't know, that thing got into the child's mental. I think she really conceptualized it, and the child came home panicking, and from that day henceforth the child even refused to put on that uniform, and she even did not want to go to that particular school to put on that particular uniform, because every time the mother told her to put uniform in the morning, the mother was sharing with us, it was quite a struggle, because the child kept on crying that, oh, that uniform has caterpillar, and the mother would be like, there's no caterpillar there. The mother would cane her, and it was almost getting out of hand. So the mother was so frustrated. So such frustrations sometimes sometimes come about. So sometimes your child can be experiencing a fear. If it is not extreme, they'll not share it so much. But if it is extreme and it's frustrating them, I'm telling you, as a parent, you cannot have rest. So that is why today I want to talk about some of the causes of common fears and worries experienced by children. Some of the common fears and worries experienced by children. Now, the most common categories of anxieties and problems experienced by children include specific phobias. One of them is specific phobia. And this is the fear of a particular place, a particular situation. A child can just have a specific phobia of a place, a phobia of a school, phobia of a caterpillar, phobia of darkness. And sometimes it is normal because it's part of growth, they become curious, but sometimes it becomes too much. The child is so worried of certain animals, so worried of wasps, so worried of bees. And this kind of phobia can be so overwhelming, especially when the child becomes too anxious, until it makes you anxious as a parent. So it's important to know that this is a phobia. And a phobia can be as a result of a place. Maybe a child can fear going to school, or being next to a road, or going to a particular house, or going to a particular room, maybe because of one experience, or because of something that happened, or just because of self-imagination. We call that specific phobia. So as a parent, it's important to identify that what specific phobia, what is this that my child fears? What is this particular phobia? What is this that the child fears? And see to what extent is the fear affecting the child day-to-day life. If it is extreme, then you need to seek for help. If it is not extreme, you can just talk to the child, give the child assurance, and with time they outgrow it. Another type of fear that children normally experience is called social phobia. Social phobia. So this is the fear of entering situations where they will be with other people. A child can just fear entering a situation where they'll be with other people, or just fear to be with some particular group of people. And this is always very common with children when they are just about to go to school, or when they are going to school. A child just fears, okay, leaving home and going to school, to be with other children, to be away from the normal caretaker. And the child, it can be so extreme. A child can really fear, they cry, they fear to be with the teacher because of some imagination that, oh, the teacher will beat me, or they might fear even to be with the household, depending on what the household does to them. So again, it is important to know whether it is extreme, you need to seek help, or it is something you can deal with. And when your child has a social phobia, it will express themselves when your child will be struggling to, to be with in a particular place with the specific types of people. Like, okay, personally, I used to fear when I was growing up. I'm really using myself as an example because I really, in my growth, I really had to overcome a lot of fears. This one was not so extreme, but I can remember that I also never used to eat where people are. I used to fear eating together with the people. I would just eat with our family members. But if you took me to a place, even in a party, I would not eat. I'm telling you, you would struggle with me. My mother, there is a time there was a function in our home, and people were celebrating. And because there were so many people, it wasn't the real home. It was one of our members of the extended family. There was a homecoming party of one of my uncles, and people were celebrating. Fellow children were there, and my mother really struggled to make me eat with the others. I remember I did not eat, and food had to be packed for me. My food had to be packed separately and taken to our house. And some women found it very ridiculous. They really quarreled my mom and told my mom how she had not brought me up well. I was just a bad girl. I was selfish. How comes I did not want to eat with the others? I had some fears that I cannot explain now, why I never used to want to eat where people were. But I think those are some of the struggles that I went through. So every child can have their own fears of social places, doing certain things with socializing with people. So it is called social phobia. Then another type of fear, another type of anxiety or fear that a child or that children can go through is called generalized anxiety. Generalized anxiety. Now, this is where a child worries excessively and finds it hard to get worries out of his or her mind. So some children who just worry, they worry a lot, they just worry and they just concerned of issues, thinking that things might not be right, thinking that maybe, oh, my mom might die, or this sickness might kill us, or maybe if I board a vehicle we might get an accident. And when a child is having this kind of fear, this general kind of anxiety, you'll find the child asking you so many questions. Mommy, what if this happens? What if this happens? I remember during COVID times, COVID-19 times, during Corona times, my youngest son was so worried of the situation. He was so worried of the lockdown when we were watching it in the TV. He was so worried of the lockdown. He was so worried that he could not go and play with the friends. And he was so worried. He used to ask me so many questions. And he would wonder, oh, mom, now what about the mask? What about this sneezing in the elbow? He had so many questions to ask, and it was just, it was actually affecting him. He was so worried of the fear of the unknown. I mean, he didn't know what to worry about, but all the same, he was worried. He was just asking so many questions. Some of them were not making sense about Corona. And it made him develop a lot of sleep problems. He developed sleep problems. His sleep pattern changed. He would sleep very late and wake up very early and ask similar questions. So that kind of fear or that kind of anxiety is called generalized type of anxiety. A child just fears situations, things, they fear of the unknown, and they just fear generally. So as a parent again, or as a mother, I mean, it is important for you to identify, okay, this is a generalized kind of fear. In this case, if it is not so extreme, you need to give your child the assurance that things are not that bad, or that whatever is worrying them will finally find a solution. Because if it goes out of hand again, then we end up having children who cannot express them, who just fear. They just fear. They don't know what they fear, but they just fear, and it ends up affecting their personality. Another type of fear that I want to talk about, or that is common in children, is called separation anxiety. This is very common. This is very common, especially when children are leaving home. You've been taking care of your child. It is time to take them to school, or you are on maternity leave, and it is time now to resume work. Then there is that anxiety. The child is not familiar with the new caregiver, and this can really cause problems. So different kids, children overcome this depending on the personality of the child. Some overcome it very easily, and some take long. Some take long to overcome it. When you take your child to preschool for the first time, when you go to day one of preschool, actually almost the first week or the first month, I admire preschool teachers. You'll find every kind crying, every child crying. They try to cling to their mothers, like, oh, oh. It's just noisy. And they cry a lot because they fear. They fear of separating from the known, from the caregiver that you're always aware of, from your mom, the fear of separation, and the fear of just living and going away from the familiar person, from the familiar face. So again, if this becomes too much, you find the fear is extending. This one is usually very normal, especially when kids leave home and when they're going to school. It's normal. I'm very sure that mothers have experienced this. All of us mothers, we've experienced this. We've really hard times struggling with our children when they are going to school. Every morning is a struggle. When you take them to daycare centers or to preschool, it is a struggle. When you change house helps, it's a struggle. But if it becomes too much again, if it overextends, then you need to go deeper and establish what is it. Why is it that my child is not acquainting uh, himself or herself with the new person or the new caregiver? Why is my child becoming clingy for too long? Then in that case, you might need to seek help for the child. Another kind of fear that children undergo is called panic disorder. Panic disorder is an intense feeling of anxiety, accompanied by striking physical symptoms such as difficulty in breathing, chest pain, sweating, and such like. And this can happen when a child enters a particular feared situation and feels unable to cope. A particular feared situation, maybe a child has been undergoing serious threat, maybe from the caregiver, the house help, or even the parent. One of the parent is not good to the child, or even the teachers, or even fellow siblings. I mean, or even fellow siblings, or fellow classmates. So the child just becomes too anxious, too panicky. It can also happen when something serious happens. Maybe another child gets seriously injured when the child is watching. Then the child will suffer from fear called panic disorder. This one is very important as a mother or as a parent to ensure that you check this immediately. If it extends, if you find the child is not behaving normally and you're able to establish that this is panic disorder, then sincerely for this one, you seriously need to seek help as soon as possible to help the child. Another kind of fear that children undergo through is called obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, this is characterized by the experience of intrusive thoughts, of images, obsessions, in a compulsion to act in a particular way in response to these thoughts. It is characterized by the experience of intrusive thoughts, of images or obsessions, and a compulsion to act in a particular way in response to these thoughts. Okay, so a child can be obsessed to act in a particular way due to their own thought patterns. The thoughts or images that maybe something that has been they've imagined or has been said over and over until now they internalize it, until now when it pops in their mind, it causes them distress, it causes the child distress. What you have to remember is that obsession differs from real life worries or concerns, because they often take the form of specific concern that the child feels responsible to prevent. A child feels that I'm responsible for this. A child is obsessed by some thought pattern and they feel that I'm responsible. I'm responsible for mom and dad's fights. So sometimes you just find that your child just comes and tells you, "Mom, sorry." Maybe it's a family where father and mother always fighting, always arguing in front of the child, until the child now is obsessed by the thoughts that maybe I'm the one who is causing all this, or maybe I need to always continue telling mommy sorry or daddy sorry so that they don't go away or so that they don't die. So you'll find that maybe a child will take it upon themselves to tell you sorry mommy, or sorry daddy, or sorry so and so, or so and so, I love you. They feel responsible that I have to do this. If I don't do it, then maybe something bad will happen to the loved one. So that is called obsessive compulsive disorder. So when you find a child over repeating some pattern until they feel like they are responsible over this, they should do it this way, so that maybe something does not happen, you can easily tell. Then it is important to know to what extent has the child internalized this. Do they need help or so? Then another fear that common fear that children go through is called post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this describes a reaction to a traumatic event in which a child directly experienced or witnessed the threat of actual or perceived death or injury to a child. Like, for example, a child sees a fellow child involved in a road accident, or they see somebody actually seriously hitting a fellow child, or even an adult, until now they feel like, wow. So, or maybe there is some strike in school, or fire. There is fire outbreak in school or even at home, and maybe some people are injured or some are even burnt to death, and a child actually sees this, that this child will undergo a very serious kind of fear called post-traumatic stress disorder. This one cannot be taken for granted. This one, if your child experiences this, then they need immediate help. You need to seek immediate help from a child specialist, because sometimes it doesn't go away that easily, and sometimes it's not easy for the child to overcome it without the help of a specialist. Then in essence, what I can say, or in conclusion, what I can say of all the fears that I've described all the seven common fears, seven common fears that children undergo. And of all these seven common fears that children experience once in a while, I want to tell us as mothers that it's not good to ignore them. I know once in a while it can be bothersome. A child is just having some phobia and they keep on being bothersome. And if we do not look at it keenly, you can, once in a while, you seek help from friends. And depending on the kind of friends that you have, some friends will tell you, ignore the child, oh, forget about it. Oh, some will even tell you, cane that child is joking around. But I want to tell us that as parents, it's important to to check into it. And as a mother, anxiety problems are the most common forms of emotional and behavioral problems experienced by children. And it is important for you as a mother, for me as a mother, and for any other mother to be aware of which of the anxiety problems that your child is undergoing. Which one is this kind of fear? Which one is this kind of anxiety? And how to deal with it. Because if ignored, some of these anxiety problems can affect children's developing social lives, academic performance, mood, and general growth and development.